Hey guys, it's Catbird here again, and I wanted to give you a review of the Gossamer Gear Mariposa 60 backpack. I've been using it for the last 30 days or so while hiking the Appalachian Trail, and then an additional 2 weeks or so doing some other hikes, and I think I'm ready to give an honest and earnest review. So, without further ado, let's take a look. So let's look at all the main features of this pack. This pack is one that has one large main compartment. As you can see, there's a compartment on the cover that covers the main compartment, the enclosure there that covers the main compartment. There is a large pocket on the right side and two smaller pockets on the left side, one on the top and one on the bottom. There are two hip belt pockets if you chose to get a hip belt with your pack. That's an optional accessory. And then there is the rear external mesh pocket. Additionally, you can add what's called a bottle rocket, which is a sleeve that holds a water bottle. I obviously chose that option. You can also get another accessory for your umbrella if you choose to use an umbrella. Another feature of this pack is the sit light pad, as they call it, and this pad gives you some padding on your back, and it also is removable and can be used to sit on. And I actually found that to be quite a useful feature. I use this not only to sit on during the day when I might come to a wet log or a rock that was hard, jagged edges, what have you, but I would also use it to place at the vestibule of my tent, so I had somewhere to sit down on when I was getting in and out of my tent, or somewhere to place my feet to keep them from getting muddy and dirty and dragging that stuff into my tent. So there are the main features of the pack, and I thought I would just kind of go over some of the individual features and how I felt about their daily use. So I've already explained to you the sit light pad, that this pad comes in and out and is a great feature. One of the other features that I learned to really enjoy was this large side pocket, and I keep all of my daily essentials in there: my toilet paper, my poop shovel, my first aid kit, anything that I might need relatively quickly, but that is too large to go in my hip belt pockets, or maybe just not quite as frequently used as the things that go into my hip belt pockets. So speaking of the hip belt pockets, these pockets are pretty nice. They're fairly large size. They hold a fair amount of items. I wish that they were perhaps forward a little bit more, closer to the buckle. Now I understand that would reduce the length of the webbing, but they're a little bit difficult to reach into, both when reaching across your body to get to the one that's on the opposite side of your body, and they're a little far back if you're trying to get into one that's on the near, where the near hand is. But still the same, they're nice size, the zippers work nicely, and they're fairly convenient from that perspective. This large mesh pocket in the back, this turned out to be a pretty useful pocket as well. I found that anything that might be wet during the day, or that had been wet previously, I might place here on the outside. Because it's mesh, it will dry. I also found that I could just stuff extra stuff in here. There's more room than I really might have expected, and it's very forgiving. So I found myself often throwing my trash in there, or something that I picked up along the way, a piece of bark that I liked, or a rock, or whatever it might be. A lot of times I would place my daily snacks in here, in all of them together in a Ziploc bag, place them on the outside here so they're really easily accessible to me throughout the day, and then take them from there and put them in my bear canister at the end of the day. Another feature, or two features that I learned to really enjoy here, were these two side pockets on the left side. The top one I use for my cook set. You could use it for a number of things. I saw others using this also as a place to put their cook set. And then the bottom pocket which would traditionally be a place where you would put a water bottle, fits one smart water bottle or two very nicely, or it also fits a water bottle and a water filtration system nicely. So with all of these things that have the potential of being wet, if this side pocket gets wet, everything that's in it's a wet item, so I really don't care so much. I do like the external lashing points on this pack, although I do find that they're probably more than what I need, more lashing points than what I need. I don't find that I'm lashing that many things on the outside of my pack. It's nice to have them there. They're just not necessary for me. Also on the straps, there are several points where you can lash items. Here is a loop, and there's an additional fabric loop right here. And those same sorts of things are on the opposite strap. So loop here at the top and some other lashing points. Now you can see that I put a piece of shock cord here, a loop of shock cord, so I can hang my tripod there. I found that to be very convenient. One of the things that I didn't find convenient, and I have traditionally found this zip pocket on the top of what would be a brain of a lot of other single compartment backpacks. This one, there's no give in it, so there's nowhere for things to go. If you put something in here, if it's flat or rigid, there's no space for it here. So it's just, I don't find it to be extremely useful. Excuse me. Also, because this backpack doesn't have any compression straps to pull the sides of the backpack together, these are your compression straps here that help keep everything in place. And so when you pull this tight, it makes this top pocket almost inaccessible. So, you know, when I'm trying to get things in and out of there, it's just not very convenient. That pocket could go away in my estimation. I've used it exactly once. I tried to use it many other times, but I didn't find it to really be all that useful. The main compartment on this backpack, I think, is a really nice size. The one thing that I will say is that the opening to this compartment is a little narrow. Now, they put this gather here, a buckle with a gather, to pull this closed so that it folds over nicely. And what I think would have been a good idea is if Gossamer Gear would have added a few extra inches of fabric. If you're going to pull this thing tight to fold it over, just add a little bit of fabric to make this sort of a funnel on the top so that things go into it a little bit more easily. That would be one of the things that I would recommend that they change. The one thing that I'm sometimes frustrated with, you know, getting things into that opening. They go in okay, but it's just a little bit of a struggle, especially when you're tired in the morning and you don't feel like fighting with your gear. Trying to stuff your sleep system in there can be a little bit frustrating at times. It's not enough to make me change packs because I love the pack, but it's enough to make me sometimes bite my tongue. What else do we have here? The suspension system itself. I left this sit pad out. I'm going to stuff it back in here quick, and I'm not going to do the best job in the interest of keeping things moving. It does go in and out pretty easily, but the suspension of this system is really a pretty nice suspension. This sit light pad is very light and it's pretty comfortable against your back, and the straps are padded enough to give plenty of support. The elevator straps work quite well. Another thing that I might suggest if I was engineering this would be to maybe use a slightly wider webbing on the straps. This narrow webbing holds a lot of tension in it because it's narrow. There's a lot of pressure applied, and I think if a slightly wider webbing was used, the adjustments would probably work just a little bit easier. Of course, that's me being an armchair engineer. So I think that's just about it. I don't know that there's really much else to talk about. You know, I used this pack for 31 days on the Appalachian Trail, and I've used it about 2 weeks for other hikes, both in my shakedowns in preparation for going onto the Appalachian Trail, and then also just using it because I wanted to go out backpacking. I used it for another 3 days after getting off the Appalachian Trail to hike on the Black Forest Trail, and I wouldn't trade it. I would say it's probably been my favorite backpack that I've ever had. And despite a few modifications that I would personally make, I wouldn't see myself buying something different. So that's my review. I would give it a 4.5, a solid 4.5. Good job, Gossamer Gear. And I guess that's all I've got for you at this time. So until next time, I'll see you on the trail.